The rain hammered against the windows of Maple Corner Cafe with the kind of relentless intensity that made even the bravest souls think twice about stepping outside. Elena Marie Williams wiped down the same wooden table for the third time, her green-blue eyes constantly drifting toward the glass door where droplets raced each other down like tears on a weathered face. At 27, she had perfected the art of appearing busy when her mind wandered to places she'd rather forget. Her golden blonde hair, pulled back in its usual practical ponytail, caught the warm amber light from the vintage Edison bulbs that gave the small Vermont cafe its cozy charm. The simple uniform, navy apron over faded jeans and a cream-colored sweater, couldn't hide the gentle curves of her athletic frame, nor the way she unconsciously touched the small vintage pendant at her throat whenever anxiety crept in. "Girl, you're gonna wear a hole through that table if you keep rubbing it like that." Brooklyn Washington's voice carried its usual blend of southern warmth and knowing amusement. At 29, Brooke had the kind of presence that filled a room, confident, protective, with dark eyes that missed nothing. Today she wore her natural curls loose, framing her face as she balanced 3 steaming mugs on a tray with practiced ease. Elena's smile came automatically, the same gentle expression that had won over every regular customer in the past 2 years. "Just making sure everything's perfect. You know how Mrs. Patterson gets about water spots." "Honey, Mrs. Patterson hasn't been in here since Tuesday, and that was to complain about the music being too loud." Brooke set down the tray and placed a knowing hand on her hip. "What's really eating at you? You've been jumpy as a cat in a thunderstorm all week." Before Elena could deflect with another excuse, the brass bell above the door chimed with an urgency that matched the storm outside. A man stumbled in, his expensive charcoal suit darkened by rain, water dripping from his dark hair onto the worn wooden floors. He stood there for a moment, disoriented, his blue-gray eyes scanning the cafe as if he'd landed on an alien planet. Elena felt something shift in her chest, a flutter she hadn't experienced in years. The stranger was tall, probably 6'2", with the kind of presence that spoke of boardrooms and important decisions. But there was something else, something vulnerable in the way he clutched a small pink backpack against his side like a lifeline. "Daddy, I'm cold," came a tiny voice that seemed to emerge from behind the man's legs. A little girl, no more than 6, peered around her father with enormous blue eyes and blonde hair that had escaped from what were once neat braids. Her Disney princess dress was damp and she shivered despite the cafe's warmth. Elena's heart clenched. Without thinking, she grabbed 2 thick towels from behind the counter and approached them, her movements gentle and measured. "Here," she said softly, offering the larger towel to the man and kneeling down to the little girl's level with the smaller one. "Let's get you warmed up, sweetheart." The child looked up at her father, who nodded with obvious relief. "Thank you," he said, his voice carrying traces of exhaustion that went deeper than just the storm. "I'm Adrian Mitchell, and this is my daughter, Lily." "Elena," she replied, carefully helping Lily dry her hair. "And you're both safe now. How about some hot chocolate? I make it with real marshmallows." Lily's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. "Can I have extra marshmallows, please?" Elena laughed, a sound that surprised even herself with its genuine warmth. "As many as you want." She looked up at Adrian, noting the way his shoulders had relaxed slightly. "And for you? Coffee? Something stronger?" "Coffee would be perfect. Black." He paused, studying her face with an intensity that made her cheeks flush. "You're very kind. We were supposed to be at my sister's house an hour ago, but storms have their own schedule," Elena finished, rising gracefully to her feet. "Take the corner booth by the fireplace. It's the warmest spot." As they settled in, Elena busied herself preparing their order, hyper-aware of Adrian's gaze following her movements. Brooke appeared at her elbow, whispering, Well, well. Look who's got herself a handsome stranger and his adorable mini-me." "It's not like that," Elena murmured, but her hands trembled slightly as she arranged 3 perfect marshmallows in Lily's hot chocolate. Brooke hummed knowingly, "And I'm the Queen of England." Elena carried the drinks to their table where Lily was chattering excitedly about something called Daddy's work trip and the big scary meeting. Adrian listened with the patient attention of a father who genuinely adored his daughter. But Elena caught the shadow that crossed his features when Lily mentioned something about Mommy watching from heaven. "Here we go," Elena said, setting down the steaming mugs. "One royal hot chocolate for the princess and one coffee strong enough to face any storm for the brave knight." Lily giggled, and Adrian's lips curved in what might have been his first real smile in months. "You're good with children." "Children are honest," Elena replied, then immediately wished she could take back the words. "Too much truth, too fast. I mean, they say what they feel." "Unlike adults," Adrian said quietly, his eyes meeting hers with an understanding that made her breath catch. The moment stretched between them, electric with possibility, until Lily's voice broke the spell. "Elena, do you have any cookies? The kind with the smiley faces?" As Elena hurried back to the counter, her heart racing with emotions she'd buried. Deep, she had no idea that Adrian Mitchell was watching her with the same mixture of fear and hope that kept her awake at night. Brooke caught her arm as she reached for the cookie jar. "Sugar, I don't know what just happened over there, but that man is looking at you like you hung the moon and stars." Elena's hand instinctively went to her pendant, her grandmother's gift, her talisman against heartbreak. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside the cafe something new was beginning, something that terrified her more than any thunder ever could. 3 days had passed since the storm, and Elena found herself glancing at the door every time the bell chimed, her heart doing that ridiculous flutter dance she'd thought she'd forgotten how to feel. She was restocking the pastry case when Brooke materialized beside her with that knowing smirk that meant trouble. "So, Prince Charming hasn't been back yet?" Brooke asked, arranging blueberry muffins with deliberate casualness. "I don't know what you're talking about," Elena replied, but her fingers fumbled with a croissant, nearly dropping it. "And he's not Prince Charming. He's just a customer who got caught in the rain." "Uh-huh. A customer who left you a $50 tip on a $12 order." Elena's cheeks burned. She'd tried to rationalize Adrian's generosity. Maybe he was just wealthy enough that money didn't matter. Maybe he felt bad about dripping all over her floors. But the way he'd looked at her when he handed over the money, the way his fingers had brushed hers. The bell chimed again, and Elena's head snapped up so quickly Brooke snorted with laughter. "Girl, you've got it bad." But it wasn't Adrian. Instead, Mrs. Patterson shuffled in, her gray hair perfectly set despite the October wind, clutching her enormous purse like a weapon. At 73, she had opinions about everything and the energy to share them all. "Elena, dear," she called, settling into her usual spot by the window. "The usual, but make sure the coffee isn't bitter like last Tuesday. I swear that new blend tastes like burnt rubber." "Of course, Mrs. Patterson." Elena poured the coffee from the pot she'd been keeping warm specifically for the older woman, a milder roast that wouldn't offend her delicate palate. It was these small gestures that had made her indispensable at Maple Corner, even if they went largely unnoticed. As she served the coffee, Mrs. Patterson's sharp eyes studied her face. "You look different, child. There's color in your cheeks. Are you eating enough? You're too thin." "I'm fine, really." "It's a man, Mrs. Patterson," declared with the authority of someone who'd witnessed 7 decades of human drama. "I can always tell. Who is he? Anyone I know?" Before Elena could deflect, the bell chimed again, and this time her heart didn't just flutter. It stopped completely. Adrian stood in the doorway, but today he wore dark jeans and a navy sweater that made his eyes look like storm clouds. No suit, no briefcase, just a man who looked like he belonged in a coffee shop on a quiet Thursday afternoon. "Elena," he said, and her name sounded different in his voice, softer, more personal. "Adrian." She was proud that her voice came out steady. "No Lily today?" "She's at school. I was in the neighborhood." He approached the counter with the measured steps of someone who'd been planning this moment. "Actually, that's not true. I drove 40 minutes to come here." Brooke, who had been pretending to organize napkins, made a sound that might have been a suppressed squeal. Mrs. Patterson perked up like a hunting dog catching a scent. "Oh my." the older woman stage whispered. Is this him? Elena wanted the floor to swallow her whole. Mrs. Patterson, this is Adrian Mitchell. Adrian, this is Mrs. Patterson, one of our most observant regulars. Adrian's smile was genuine as he nodded to the elderly woman. Pleasure to meet you, ma'am. I can see why Elena speaks of you fondly. Does she now? Mrs. Patterson practically preened. Well, any friend of Elena's, though I notice you don't have a wedding ring, young man. Mrs. Patterson. Elena's mortification was complete, but Adrian didn't seem offended. No, ma'am. I'm a widower. The word hung in the air like a confession, heavy with grief and possibility. Elena felt something crack open in her chest. Not just sympathy, but recognition. They were both broken in different ways, both carrying invisible scars. I'm sorry for your loss, she said quietly, meaning it more than he could know. Thank you. His eyes held hers for a moment too long. Lily hasn't stopped talking about you. About your magic marshmallows and how kind you were. She's a beautiful little girl. Elena's voice was soft, remembering the way Lily had looked at her with such trust. You're raising her well. I'm trying. Some days are harder than others. There it was again, that honesty that cut through small talk like a blade. Elena found herself wanting to reach across the counter, to touch his hand, to tell him she understood about hard days. Instead, she clasped her hands together. What can I get you today? Actually, I was wondering. Adrian hesitated, and for a moment he looked younger, uncertain. Lily has been asking if we could bring you something. A thank you gift. She made you a picture. From his jacket pocket, he pulled out a piece of construction paper covered in crayon drawings, stick figures that were clearly meant to be the three of them, standing in what looked like the cafe. In a child's careful handwriting at the bottom, for Elena, my angel of coffee, love Lily. Elena's eyes filled with tears she couldn't explain. This is beautiful. Tell her thank you. Tell her yourself, Adrian said. We'd like to take you to dinner if you're interested, if you're available. The word available carried weight. He was asking about more than just her schedule. Elena felt the familiar panic rise in her throat, the voice that whispered she wasn't good enough, that she'd only disappoint him when he learned the truth about her past. But before she could refuse, Mrs. Patterson's voice cut through her spiraling thoughts. Of course she's available. Elena, don't you dare say no to this nice man. It's been far too long since you've had any fun. Brooke appeared at Elena's shoulder like a guardian angel. She'd love to. Wouldn't you, Elena? All eyes were on her. Adrian's hopeful, Mrs. Patterson's demanding, Brooke's encouraging. But it was the memory of Lily's trusting smile that made the decision for her. Yes, she whispered, then stronger. Yes, I'd like that. Adrian's smile could have powered the entire cafe. Saturday? I could pick you up around 6. As Elena nodded, writing her address on a napkin with trembling fingers, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was standing at the edge of a cliff, about to jump into unknown waters. What she didn't know was that 40 miles away, someone from her past had just driven into Burlington, Vermont, with a very different kind of storm brewing. Saturday evening arrived with the kind of crisp October air that made Vermont look like a postcard. Elena stood in front of her small bathroom mirror, changing clothes for the 4th time in 20 minutes. The vintage pendant at her throat caught the light as she smoothed down a simple burgundy sweater dress, elegant enough for dinner but not so fancy that she'd feel like she was playing dress-up. Her tiny studio apartment above the bakery next to the cafe reflected her careful, modest life. A bed with a handmade quilt her grandmother had given her, a small kitchen table for one, books stacked everywhere because she couldn't afford proper shelves. The only luxury was a French press coffee maker, a splurge that reminded her daily of small pleasures worth savoring. A knock at the door made her heart skip. She opened it to find Adrian looking devastatingly handsome in dark slacks and a charcoal sweater. But what stole her breath was Lily bouncing beside him in a pink dress with sparkly shoes. Elena, Lily launched herself forward for a hug that Elena caught instinctively. Daddy said we're going to the fancy restaurant with the twisty bread. Lily insisted on coming, Adrian said, his voice carrying a mixture of apology and affection. I hope that's okay. I can arrange for a babysitter if... No, Elena said quickly, surprised by her own certainty. I'd love for her to come. The truth was, Lily's presence felt like a safety net. With the little girl there, this felt less like a date and more like family. The thought should have terrified her, but instead it wrapped around her heart like a warm blanket. They drove to Giuseppe's, a cozy Italian place on the outskirts of town where the breadsticks were indeed twisty, and the atmosphere was warm enough for a 6-year-old's energy. Lily chattered constantly, filling any awkward silences with observations about everything from the color of the tablecloth to why spaghetti was the silliest food ever invented. She gets the talking gene from her mother, Adrian said softly, watching his daughter demonstrate the proper way to twirl pasta. She could make friends with anyone in 5 minutes. Elena noticed how he said his late wife's name, carefully, like handling something precious and fragile. She sounds wonderful. She was. Adrian's smile was sad but genuine. You would have liked her. She had this way of making everyone feel important, valued like you do. The comparison should have felt overwhelming, but instead Elena found herself curious. How long were you married? 8 years. We met in college, got married young, thought we had forever. He paused, watching Lily attempt to build a tower out of breadsticks. Cancer took her when Lily was 3. It's been challenging. Elena's heart ached for both of them. I can't imagine how difficult that must be for both of you. Some days are better than others. Lily asks about her sometimes, wonders when Mommy will come back from heaven. I never know what to say. Before Elena could respond, Lily piped up, Daddy, Elena looks like the princess in my storybook, the one with the kind eyes. Adrian's gaze met Elena's across the table, and something electric passed between them. She does, doesn't she? Elena felt heat rise in her cheeks. I'm hardly princess material. I disagree, Adrian said quietly, and the sincerity in his voice made her breath catch. The evening continued with easy conversation, Lily providing entertainment with her elaborate theories about why dinosaurs were extinct. They were too big for umbrellas when it rained. And her detailed plans for her upcoming 7th birthday. I want a cake shaped like a unicorn, but not a scary one. As they shared tiramisu, Lily insisting Elena help her eat the grown-up dessert, Adrian asked the question Elena had been dreading. What about you? Family? Previous relationships? Elena's fingers found her pendant automatically. Not much family. My grandmother raised me, but she passed away 5 years ago. And relationships? Let's just say I haven't had much luck in that department. It wasn't technically a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. The whole truth included words like abuse and restraining order, and therapy sessions she couldn't afford. Their loss, Adrian said simply, and something in his tone suggested he meant it. As they prepared to leave, Lily tugged on Elena's dress. Can you come to my birthday party, please? It's next Saturday, and Daddy said we could have it at the cafe if you said yes. Elena looked at Adrian, who shrugged with a sheepish smile. She's been planning this all week. I told her it was up to you. The request was so sweet, so innocent that Elena felt tears threaten. I would love to come to your party, sweetheart. Lily's squeal of delight could probably be heard in the next county. As Adrian walked her to her door, Lily running ahead, to examine a caterpillar on the sidewalk, he caught Elena's hand gently. Thank you for tonight, for being so wonderful with her. She hasn't been this excited about anything in months. Thank you for including me. Elena's voice was soft. I had a beautiful time. So did I. He hesitated, then leaned down to press a gentle kiss to her cheek. Sweet dreams, Elena. As she watched them drive away, Lily waving enthusiastically from the back seat, Elena touched her cheek where his lips had been. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine a different kind of future, one filled with twisty, bread and birthday parties and little girls who thought she looked like a princess. But as she climbed the stairs to her apartment, she didn't notice the dark sedan parked across the street, or the man inside it who had been watching her all evening. She didn't see him pick up his phone and dial a familiar number. "Yeah, it's me," the voice said into the darkness. "I found her, and it looks like little Elena's got herself a new life. Won't this be fun?" The morning of Lily's birthday party dawned bright and crisp, with autumn leaves dancing outside the cafe windows like nature's own confetti. Elena had arrived 2 hours early to transform Maple Corner into a 7-year-old's dream. Pink and purple streamers, balloon bouquets, tied to every chair, and a corner table dedicated to the elaborate unicorn cake she'd spent half the night perfecting. "Girl, you've outdone yourself," Brooke said, stepping back to admire their handiwork. She wore a festive purple sweater that matched the decorations, her hair styled in elegant braids. "That cake belongs in a magazine." Elena smoothed her hands. Over her navy dress, the nicest thing she owned, saved for special occasions that rarely came. "I just want everything to be perfect for her." "It will be. But honey, you need to breathe. You're vibrating like a tuning fork." Before Elena could respond, the bell chimed and Lily burst through the door like a ray of sunshine, resplendent in a glittery pink dress with a tulle skirt that made her look like she was floating. "Elena! Elena! Look at my birthday dress. Daddy said I look like a real princess." Adrian followed close behind, carrying a stack of wrapped presents, his smile soft as he watched his daughter's excitement. He'd dressed nicely, too. Dark jeans and a crisp white button-down that made his eyes look impossibly blue. Someone's been awake since 5 a.m. planning this party. The decorations are perfect. Lily spun in a circle, her skirt billowing around her. It's like a fairy tale. Over the next hour, the cafe filled with a delightful chaos of children and their parents. Elena watched Adrian navigate the social dynamics with practiced ease, clearly comfortable in his role as the devoted single father everyone respected. She noticed how the other mothers looked at him with barely concealed interest, and how their gazes turned speculative when they saw Elena helping serve juice boxes. "So you're the famous Elena," said a woman with perfectly styled blonde hair and designer jeans. "I'm Rebecca Chen from Lily's class. Adrian's mentioned you." The way she said it carried undertones Elena couldn't quite decipher. "I hope good things." "Oh, very good things. It's nice that Lily has bonded with you." Rebecca's smile was polite but assessing. "Are you from around here? I don't recognize you from the school functions." "I work here," Elena said simply, refilling a tray of sandwiches. "At the cafe." How lovely. Adrian must enjoy having somewhere comfortable to bring Lily. The implication hung in the air that Elena was a convenient diversion, a temporary comfort for a grieving widower. Elena felt the familiar twist of inadequacy in her stomach, the voice that whispered she was fooling herself if she thought someone like Adrian could seriously care about someone like her. But then Lily appeared at her side, tugging on her dress. "Elena, will you help me blow out the candles? Daddy said you have to help because you made the cake so beautiful." As they gathered around the unicorn cake, Lily's small hand clutched in hers. Elena felt the warmth of belonging wash over her. This was real, this child's joy, this moment of pure happiness. Whatever doubts the other parents might plant, Lily's love was genuine. "Make a wish, birthday girl," Adrian said, lighting the 7 candles with care. Lily closed her eyes tight, her face scrunched in concentration. When she opened them, she looked directly at Elena. "I wished for you to be my friend forever and ever." The simplicity of it, the pure trust, made Elena's throat close with emotion. "That's a beautiful wish, sweetheart." As the party continued, Elena found herself relaxing into the rhythm of children's laughter and easy conversation with the more welcoming parents. She was refilling the punch bowl when Adrian appeared beside her, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something woodsy and warm. "You've made her so happy," he said quietly. "This is the first birthday since Sarah died that she hasn't cried. She's an amazing little girl. You should be proud." "I am." "But Elena," he hesitated, glancing around to make sure they weren't overheard. I need you to know that this isn't just about Lily. What I feel for you, it's real. It's terrifying. And complicated, but it's real. Before she could respond, the moment was shattered by a commotion near the door. A man had entered, tall, with dark hair and cold eyes that Elena recognized with a jolt of pure terror. Marcus Webb, her ex-boyfriend, the man she'd fled from 2 years ago. Well, well, Marcus said, his voice carrying that familiar undertone of controlled menace that used to make her flinch. If it isn't little Elena, playing house with the nice people. The cafe fell silent. Parents instinctively moved closer to their children. Adrian stepped forward, his posture protective. I'm sorry, but this is a private party. Marcus smiled, the same charming expression that had fooled everyone before they saw what lay beneath. Oh, I'm not here to crash the party. I'm here to see my girlfriend. Isn't that right, Elena? I'm not your girlfriend, Elena managed, her voice barely above a whisper. We're not together anymore. Details, Marcus said with a dismissive wave. We had a little disagreement, but I'm here to work things out, like adults do. Elena felt the walls closing in, felt the familiar panic rising in her chest. But then she felt a small hand slip into hers. Lily, looking up at her with worried eyes. Elena, who is this man? Why does he look angry? The innocence in that question, the trust in those blue eyes gave Elena a strength she didn't know she possessed. She squeezed Lily's hand gently. He's someone from my past, sweetheart. Someone who needs to leave. Adrian moved to stand beside them, his presence solid and reassuring. You heard her, you need to go. Marcus's smile turned ugly. And you are? Someone who cares about Elena's well-being, Adrian said evenly. Which means you have about 10 seconds to walk out that door before I call the police. For a moment, the two men stared at each other, a battle of wills that could have gone either way. Then Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. This isn't over, Elena. We have unfinished business, you and I. As he turned to leave, he paused at the door. Enjoy your fairy tale while it lasts. But remember, every Cinderella story has a midnight. The silence that followed his departure was deafening. Elena realized she was shaking, and not just from fear, from rage. He had no right to invade this space, to frighten these children, to threaten the first happiness she'd known in years. But as she looked around at the concerned faces, the whispered conversations already beginning, she knew the damage was done. Her past had found her, and now everyone would know she wasn't the simple, sweet cafe worker they'd thought she was. She was a woman with secrets, with dangerous baggage, with a history that could hurt the people she was learning to love. The party ended in whispered conversations and concerned glances. Parents gathered their children with polite efficiency, thanking Adrian for a lovely time, while their eyes lingered on Elena with mixtures of curiosity and judgment. Even the most well-meaning mothers couldn't hide their speculation about the mysterious man who'd called Elena his girlfriend with such possessive certainty. Elena stood frozen by the window, watching the last families leave, her hands still trembling from Marcus's unexpected appearance. Lily tugged at her dress, but Elena barely registered the gentle pull. Elena? Are you okay? You look sad at my party. The innocent concern in that small voice broke through Elena's paralysis. She knelt down to meet Lily's worried blue eyes, forcing a smile that felt like broken glass. I'm fine, sweetheart. Just a little tired. But Lily was too perceptive for such easy deflection. That man was mean. I didn't like how he looked at you. Sometimes people from our past show up when we don't want them to, Elena said carefully. But he's gone now. Did he hurt you before? The question was asked with the devastating directness only children possessed. Elena's breath caught. How could she explain to a 7-year-old that yes, Marcus had hurt her in ways that still woke her up at night? That the faint scar on her left wrist, usually hidden by her watch, was a permanent reminder of the night she'd finally found the courage to leave? It's complicated, sweetheart. Adrian appeared beside them, his expression gentle but determined. Lily, why don't you help Brooke clean up the streamers? I need to talk to Elena for a minute. As Lily skipped away, chattering to Brooke about which balloon she wanted to take home, Adrian guided Elena to a quiet corner booth. His touch was careful, respectful of her obvious distress. Who was he? Adrian's voice was low, controlled, but Elena caught the edge of protective anger beneath the calm. Someone I used to know. Someone I left behind for good reasons. Elena's fingers found her pendant, that familiar gesture of seeking comfort. I'm sorry he ruined Lily's party. I'm sorry he... Elena. Adrian's hand covered hers, stopping her self-recrimination. You have nothing to apologize for, but I need to understand what we're dealing with. Is he dangerous? The question hung between them, loaded with implications Elena wasn't ready to face. But looking into Adrian's eyes, seeing genuine concern, rather than judgment, she felt something crack open in her chest. Yes, she whispered. He can be very dangerous when he doesn't get what he wants. Adrian's jaw tightened. Have you contacted the police? Filed a restraining order? I had one, in Connecticut where I lived before, but it expired, and when I moved here I thought... Elena's voice broke slightly. I thought I was far enough away that it wouldn't matter. It matters. Adrian's voice was fierce with certainty. We'll call the police tomorrow, file a new restraining order. Vermont has excellent domestic violence resources. Stop. Elena pulled her hand free, panic rising in her throat. You don't understand. Getting involved with someone like me, someone with this kind of baggage, it's not fair to you or Lily. That's not your decision to make. Isn't it? Elena stood, abruptly, pacing to the window where dusk was settling over the quiet street. You have a daughter to think about, a reputation, a life that doesn't need the complications I bring. Adrian rose and moved behind her, his presence warm and steady. Elena, look at me. She turned reluctantly, and what she saw in his face made her heart ache, not pity or uncertainty, but a determination that reminded her why she'd been drawn to him in the first place. I'm 39 years old, he said quietly. I've buried the love of my life, raised a daughter through grief that nearly broke us both, and learned that life is too short and too precious to waste on fear. Whatever your past holds, whatever dangers we might face, I'm not walking away. You say that now, but when you know everything, try me. The simple challenge hung in the air between them. Elena felt the weight of years of shame and secrecy pressing down on her shoulders. But she also felt something else, the faint, terrifying possibility of freedom. He was my boyfriend for 2 years, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. At first he was charming, attentive, everything I thought I wanted, but gradually it changed. He became controlling, possessive, jealous of any attention I paid to friends or family. Adrian listened without interruption, his face carefully neutral but his hands clenched into fists at his sides. When I tried to leave the first time, he convinced me it was my fault, that I'd misunderstood his intentions. He was so good at making me believe I was overreacting, being dramatic. Elena's hand unconsciously moved to her wrist, touching the hidden scar. The second time I tried to leave, he made sure I understood the consequences of defying him. Elena... Adrian's voice was rough with barely contained emotion. The third time I waited until he was out of town on business. I took what I could, emptied my savings account and drove until I couldn't drive anymore. I ended up here and it felt like a sign, this quiet little town where nobody knew my story. And you've been here 2 years building a new life. Trying to. Some days are better than others. Elena managed a weak smile. But seeing him today, knowing he found me, it feels like the walls are closing in again. Adrian stepped closer, his movements slow and deliberate, giving her time to retreat if she wanted. When she didn't, he gently cupped her face in his. Hanska, listen to me very carefully, he said, his voice low and fierce. You are not alone anymore. You have Brooke, you have this community, and you have me. We will figure this out together. But Lily adores you. And she's stronger than you think. We all are. Elena felt tears she'd been holding back for hours finally spill over. I'm scared, Adrian. I'm scared he'll hurt you. Or her. Or, hey. His thumbs wiped away her tears with infinite gentleness. Fear is normal. But don't let it steal this from us. Don't let him win. As he held her in the gathering darkness of the cafe, surrounded by the remnants of a child's birthday party, Elena allowed herself to imagine that maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to face her demons alone. But neither of them noticed the figure watching from across the street, or the way Marcus smiled as he took photos with his phone, documenting Elena's new life, her new vulnerabilities. The game was just beginning. Monday morning arrived with the kind of persistent drizzle that made everything look gray and uncertain. Elena stood behind the counter at Maple Corner, mechanically going through her opening routine while her mind replayed the weekend's events in an endless loop. She'd barely slept, jumping at every sound outside her apartment, checking the locks twice before bed. Brooke arrived 15 minutes early, shaking raindrops from her bright yellow jacket. One look at Elena's face told her everything she needed to know. Honey, you look like you've been hit by a truck. Did you sleep at all? Some. Elena's smile felt brittle even to herself. Coffee's fresh. Forget the coffee. Sit down and tell me what's really going on. Brooke guided her to the corner booth, the same one where Adrian and Lily had sat during that first storm. And don't give me any of that I'm fine nonsense. I've known you too long. Elena sank into the worn vinyl seat, suddenly exhausted. That man yesterday, Marcus, he's my ex-boyfriend. The reason I came to Vermont. Brooke's expression shifted from concern to something harder, more protective. The one who hurt you. It wasn't a question. Elena had never explicitly told Brooke about her past, but her friend was too observant not to have noticed the signs, the way Elena flinched at sudden movements, her reluctance to date, the nightmares she'd mentioned in passing. Yes. The word came out as barely more than a whisper. I thought I was safe here. I thought he'd never find me. Baby girl. Brooke reached across the table and squeezed Elena's hands. Why didn't you tell me? I could have helped, could have. What? Called the police on a man who's never technically broken any laws in Vermont, who yesterday simply walked into a public cafe and had a conversation. Elena's laugh was bitter. Marcus is too smart for obvious mistakes. He knows exactly how to stay just inside the legal lines while making his point crystal clear. Before Brooke could respond, the bell chimed, and Mrs. Patterson shuffled in, shaking her umbrella with characteristic determination. But instead of her usual cheerful morning greeting, she approached their table directly. Elena, dear, I need to speak with you. The older woman's tone was uncharacteristically serious. About yesterday? Elena's stomach dropped. If Mrs. Patterson had heard about the incident, it would be all over town by noon. Small towns thrived on gossip, and a mysterious man confronting the cafe's beloved waitress would be front-page news. Mrs. Patterson, I can explain. No explanation needed, child. The elderly woman's expression was fierce with protective determination. I've lived in this town for 43 years, and I know trouble when I see it. That man yesterday was trouble with a capital T. Elena blinked in surprise. You were there? I was getting my hair done next door when I saw him through the window. Watched the whole thing. Mrs. Patterson settled into the booth beside Brooke. He had the look of a man who thinks he owns things that don't belong to him. Mrs. Patterson. Now you listen to me, Elena Marie. I don't know what that man did to put such fear in your eyes, but I want you to know that this community looks after its own. You're not alone in this. The unexpected support nearly broke Elena's carefully maintained composure. Thank you, but I don't want to drag anyone else into my problems. Too late for that, dear. We're already involved. Mrs. Patterson's smile was razor sharp. My nephew happens to be chief of police, and he's very interested in meeting with you about filing a formal report. Before Elena could protest, the bell chimed again, and Adrian walked in with Lily. The little girl wore a pink raincoat covered in unicorns and carried a drawing that she immediately thrust toward Elena. I made this for you. It's us at my party before the scary man came. The drawing showed 3 stick figures standing in front of a building labeled Cafe. A tall man in blue, a little girl in pink, and a woman with yellow hair and a smile. Above them, Lily had drawn a rainbow and written happy in purple crayon. Elena's throat closed with emotion. It's beautiful, sweetheart. Thank you. Adrian's eyes met hers over his daughter's head, and she saw the same mixture of concern and determination that had sustained her through the weekend. How are you holding up? I'm okay. The lie came automatically, but Adrian's raised eyebrow suggested he wasn't buying it. Daddy, can Elena come have dinner with us tonight? Lily bounced on her toes. I want to show her my new puzzle. Lily, Elena might be busy. Actually, Elena surprised herself by interrupting. Dinner sounds
wonderful.
Adrian's smile was soft with relief. 6 o'clock? I'm making spaghetti, Lily's favorite. As they left for school and work respectively, Elena felt some of the tension in her shoulders ease. She had allies now: Brooke, Mrs. Patterson, Adrian, and Lily. People who cared about her well-being, who weren't going to let her face this alone. The morning passed quietly, with the usual rhythm of coffee orders and friendly conversation. Elena was beginning to think that maybe Marcus had simply been passing through, that perhaps his appearance was a coincidence rather than a threat. Then around noon, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Enjoying your new friends? It would be a shame if something happened to them. Meet me at Miller's Park at 8 p.m. if you want to keep them safe. Come alone. Elena's hands shook as she read the message. Through the cafe window, she could see the park Marcus mentioned, a small wooded area at the edge of town where children played during the day, but which became isolated and dark after sunset. He was escalating, making threats, targeting the people she cared about. Brooke appeared at her shoulder. Elena, you look like you've seen a ghost. Elena quickly deleted the message, her mind racing. She could call the police, but what proof did she have? A text from an unknown number that could have come from anyone. By the time they investigated, Marcus would be long gone, and her refusal to meet him might provoke exactly the kind of retaliation he was threatening. I'm fine, she managed. Just tired. But as she served the afternoon customers with mechanical efficiency, Elena's mind was already forming a plan. She would meet Marcus, face him one final time, and make it clear that she would never go back to him. She would do it to protect Adrian and Lily, to keep her past from destroying their future. What she didn't realize was that some predators never let go of their prey willingly, and Marcus Webb had no intention of letting Elena slip away again. The spaghetti dinner at Adrian's house should have been perfect. His home was warm and inviting, a colonial-style house with hardwood floors, family photos lining the hallways, and the kind of lived-in comfort that spoke of genuine happiness. Lily had insisted on showing Elena every room, chattering excitedly about her dollhouse, her book collection, and the framed photo on her nightstand of a beautiful woman with kind eyes who had to be Sarah. That's my mommy, Lily said matter-of-factly, picking up the frame. Daddy says she's watching over us from heaven. Do you think she likes you? Elena's heart clenched. I hope so, sweetheart. She must be very proud of what a wonderful little girl you've become. I think she is. And I think she's happy that you make Daddy smile again. The innocent observation nearly brought Elena to tears. How could she explain to this precious child that their time together might be ending? That her past was about to destroy the fragile happiness they'd all found? Dinner was a testament to Adrian's domestic skills. Perfectly al dente pasta with homemade marinara, garlic bread that rivaled any restaurant, and a salad that actually made Lily eat vegetables without complaint. But Elena barely tasted any of it, her mind consumed by the text message and the approaching deadline. 8 o'clock. Miller's Park. Come alone. Elena, you're not eating, Lily observed with 6-year-old directness. Don't you like Daddy's spaghetti? He makes the best spaghetti in the whole world. It's delicious, Elena managed, twirling pasta she couldn't bring herself to swallow. I'm just not very hungry tonight. Adrian's concerned gaze never left her face. Everything okay? You seem distant. Just tired. It's been a long day. After dinner, they settled in the living room for Lily's promised puzzle, a 1,000-piece landscape that would probably take weeks to complete. Elena sat cross-legged on the carpet, mechanically sorting edge pieces while Lily provided running commentary on her strategy. The trick is to do the edges first, Lily explained seriously. Then you work on the sky parts, then the tree parts, then the hard middle bits. Daddy taught me that. Your daddy is very smart, Elena said, aware of Adrian watching her from the couch, his laptop forgotten beside him. Lily, it's almost bedtime, Adrian said gently when the grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 7:30. Why don't you go brush your teeth? Can Elena tuck me in, please? Lily's eyes were wide with hope. Elena's throat tightened. This might be the last time she saw this precious child. Of course, sweetheart. Lily's bedtime routine was elaborate and endearing. 3 stories, chosen by democratic vote, a glass of water, her nightlight positioned at exactly the right angle, and finally, the ritual of checking for monsters that Adrian performed with theatrical seriousness. All clear, he announced after examining the closet and under the bed. No monsters detected. Daddy, when Elena tucks me in, will you check for monsters again? Just to be extra sure. As Elena pulled the pink comforter up to Lily's chin, the keu, little girl's hand caught hers. Elena, I love you. Like a mommy. The words hit Elena like a physical blow. This beautiful, innocent child had opened her heart so completely, trusted so freely, and Elena was about to walk away, leaving Lily to wonder why another mother figure had abandoned her. I love you too, sweetheart, Elena whispered, pressing a kiss to Lily's forehead. Always remember that, okay? No matter what happens. Something in her tone must have alarmed Lily because the child's grip tightened. You're not going away, are you? You're not going to heaven like Mommy? I'm not going to heaven, Elena said carefully. But sometimes grown-ups have to make difficult decisions. Don't make difficult decisions, Lily said, with the absolute authority only children possessed. Make easy ones. Stay with us. If only it were that simple. Downstairs, Adrian was waiting in the living room, 2 cups of coffee cooling on the table. The moment Elena appeared, he stood and crossed to her, his expression serious. Okay, what's really going on? You've been checking your phone every 5 minutes, you barely touched dinner, and you just said goodbye to my daughter like you're never going to see her again. Elena's resolve wavered. Adrian's blue-gray eyes were so full of concern, so ready to protect her from whatever threatened their newfound happiness. But that was exactly why she couldn't tell him. Marcus's threats weren't idle. She'd learned that the hard way. I should go, she said instead. It's getting late. Elena. Adrian caught her hand as she reached for her purse. Talk to me. Whatever it is, we can face it together. For a moment she almost cracked, almost told him about the text, about the meeting, about her plan to end this once and for all. But then she thought of Lily upstairs, trusting and innocent, and her resolve hardened. Some things have to be faced alone, she said softly, pulling free from his grasp. Adrian's face went still. This is about him, isn't it? About Marcus. Elena didn't answer, but her silence was confirmation enough. Elena, don't do anything. Stupid. Whatever he's threatened, whatever he's demanded. Goodbye, Adrian. She stood on her toes and pressed a gentle kiss to his cheek, memorizing the warmth of his skin, the clean scent of his cologne. Take care of Lily. Tell her I'll always love her. She was out the door before he could respond, before her courage could fail her completely. Behind her, she heard Adrian calling her name, but she didn't turn back. If she looked at him one more time, she'd lose her nerve entirely. The drive to Miller's Park took 12 minutes that felt like hours. Elena parked under a broken streetlight, her hands shaking as she checked the time. 7:58 p.m. The park was deserted. playground equipment casting long shadows in the dim light from the few working lamps. Elena walked toward the picnic area where she and Marcus used to come during happier times, when she still believed his possessiveness was love. He was waiting for her, leaning against a picnic table with the casual confidence of a predator who knew his prey would come. In the darkness, he looked the same as always, handsome in a way that had once made her heart race, but now only filled her with dread. "Hello, Elena," Marcus said, his voice carrying that familiar undertone of controlled, "Minatze, I was wondering if you'd show." "I'm here," Elena said, stopping 10 feet away. Close enough to hear him clearly, far enough to run if necessary. "What do you want?" Marcus smiled, and in that expression, Elena saw everything she'd spent 2 years trying to forget. The charm that masked cruelty, the intelligence that made him so dangerous. "What I've always wanted," he said simply. "You." The silence in Miller's Park stretched between them like a taut wire, broken only by the distant sound of traffic and the rustle of autumn leaves. Elena forced herself to stand tall, to meet Marcus's gaze without flinching, a small act of defiance that would have been unthinkable 2 years ago. "I'm not going back with you," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Whatever you think this is, whatever you've imagined, it's over. It's been over." Marcus chuckled, the sound sending ice through Elena's veins. "Oh, sweetheart, you always were dramatic. I'm not here to drag you back kicking and screaming. I'm here to have a civilized conversation about our future." "We don't have a future, don't we?" He pushed off from the picnic table and took a step closer. Elena fought every instinct that screamed at her to run. "I've been watching you, Elena, studying your new life. Very cozy, very domestic. The handsome widower, the adorable little girl who calls you her angel. It's like a Hallmark movie. Leave them out of this." "I would love to, really I would." Marcus's tone was conversational, almost reasonable, "but you've made that impossible. You see, I've spent 2 years thinking about us, about what went wrong. I've done a lot of self-reflection, attended some anger management classes, even saw a therapist." Elena's skepticism must have shown on her face because Marcus's smile widened. "I know what you're thinking. Marcus doesn't change. But people do change, Elena. I've changed. I want to show you how much." "By threatening the people I care about? By protecting you from making a terrible mistake?" His voice hardened slightly. "Do you really think Prince Charming is going to want damaged goods once he knows the whole truth? About what you let me do to you? About how you liked it?" The familiar shame tried to claw its way up Elena's throat, but something had shifted in her during these months in Vermont. The love of good people, Brooke's fierce loyalty, Mrs. Patterson's protective concern, Lily's innocent affection, Adrian's gentle respect, had built a wall around her heart that Marcus's poison couldn't penetrate as easily. "I never liked it," she said clearly. "I was afraid of you. There's a difference." "Details," Marcus waved dismissively. "The point is, your new boyfriend doesn't know about your particular needs, how you respond to firm guidance, how lost you get without someone to make decisions for you. I make my own decisions now. Like the decision to come here tonight alone without telling anyone." Marcus's smile was triumphant. "Some things never change, Elena. You're still the same frightened little girl who needs someone stronger to take care of her." Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the October air. "How do you know I didn't tell anyone?" "Because I know you. You're protecting them, aren't you? Willing to sacrifice yourself to keep them safe." It's almost noble, in a pathetic sort of way. The truth of his observation stung, but Elena pushed past it. "What do you want, Marcus? Just tell me what you want." "It's simple. I want you to come home with me. Tonight. We'll disappear, start fresh somewhere new. Maybe California, maybe overseas. Somewhere your widower can't follow." "And if I refuse?" Marcus pulled out his phone, scrolling through what looked like photos. "Then I share some very interesting information with your new friends. Pictures of you after our little disagreements. Hospital records from that night you tried to leave. Me. Police reports that never went anywhere because you always came back. Elena's stomach turned. She'd forgotten about the photos, the documentation of her shame that Marcus had kept like trophies. Your boyfriend seems like a protective type, Marcus continued conversationally. What do you think he'll do when he finds out about us? When he realizes what kind of woman he's been letting around his precious daughter, he'll understand. Will he? Or will he do what any rational man would do and remove the threat to his child's safety? Marcus stepped closer, close enough that Elena could smell his cologne, the same scent that used to make her feel safe and now made her nauseous. Face it, Elena. I'm offering you a way out that protects everyone. Come with me willingly, and they never have to know the ugly truth about what you really are. For a moment, Elena wavered. The old patterns of self-doubt and worthlessness whispered in her ear, telling her Marcus was right, that she was fooling herself if she thought someone like Adrian could truly love someone like her. But then she heard Lily's voice in her memory. I love you like a mommy. She remembered Adrian's hands gently cupping her face, his fierce declaration. You are not alone anymore. No, she said, the word ringing clear in the darkness. Marcus's expression shifted, the mask of reasonableness slipping to reveal the cold fury beneath. No? I said no. I'm not going anywhere with you. I'm not the same woman who left Connecticut. Marcus, I'm stronger now. I have people who love me, who believe in me. You can't take that away. Can't I? Marcus's voice dropped to the menacing whisper that used to make her blood freeze. You think your little support network will survive what I can do to them? I know where the widower works, where his daughter goes to school. I know about your friend with the smart mouth and the old lady who thinks she's so tough. I can destroy all of them, Elena. Is your pride really worth their pain? Elena felt something crack inside her, not breaking but opening. The fear was still there, would probably always be there. But alongside it was something new, a righteous anger that burned hot and clean. You want to know what's changed about me, Marcus? She said, taking a step toward him instead of away. I finally understand that you're not strong. You're not powerful, you're pathetic. A man so weak that the only way he can feel important is by terrorizing women who trusted him. Marcus's face darkened. Careful, Elena. You're forgetting who you're talking to. I'm talking to a coward, a bully, a man so insecure that he has to threaten children to feel in control. You always did have a mouth on you. Marcus reached for her arm. Maybe it's time someone reminded you. Don't touch me. The voice came from behind Marcus, low and deadly. Adrian stepped out of the shadows beyond the playground, and Elena had never seen him look so dangerous. Gone was the gentle father, the careful businessman. This was a man defending what he loved, and he looked fully capable of violence. Adrian, Elena breathed, torn between relief and terror. I told you. You told me not to make stupid decisions, Adrian said, never taking his eyes off Marcus. Following you into a dark park to meet your abusive ex-boyfriend? That would definitely qualify as stupid. Marcus straightened, sizing up this new threat. The boyfriend? How touching. Come to rescue your damsel in distress? Actually, Adrian said conversationally, I came to deliver a message from the Burlington Police Department. At that moment, car lights flooded the park as 3 police cruisers pulled into the parking area. Marcus spun around, his confident demeanor cracking as officers emerged from the vehicles. You see, Adrian continued, threatening someone via text message is a crime in Vermont, especially when that someone has friends who care enough to take screenshots before she deletes the evidence. Elena stared at him in shock. How did you? Brooke called me 20 minutes after you left. She saw you delete a text message at work today and got worried. When I put together your strange behavior tonight with your sudden goodbye. Adrian shrugged. It wasn't hard to figure out. As the police approached, Marcus turned back to Elena with a snarl. This isn't over. It will never be over. I'll find you again, and next time, interrupted a calm voice, you'll be violating federal law. Chief Morrison, Mrs. Patterson's nephew, stepped forward with professional authority. Marcus Webb, you're under arrest for stalking, harassment, and violation of a restraining order. I don't have a restraining order against me in Vermont, Marcus said coldly. No, but you do in Connecticut, which, as it happens, has reciprocity agreements with Vermont. Your ex-girlfriend filed the paperwork this afternoon. As they led Marcus away in handcuffs, he called over his shoulder. Enjoy your fairy tale, Elena. But remember, even Cinderella had to face midnight eventually. Elena stood frozen in place until the police cars disappeared, taking Marcus and 2 years of terror with them. Only then did her legs give out, sending her sinking to the picnic bench as adrenaline and relief crashed over her in waves. Adrian was beside her instantly, his arms coming around her with infinite gentleness. It's over, he whispered into her hair. It's really over. But even as Elena let herself be held, let herself believe in safety for the first time in years, she couldn't shake Marcus's final words. Some fairy tales she knew had very dark endings indeed. The police station's fluorescent lights cast everything in harsh, unforgiving clarity. Elena sat in Chief Morrison's office, a cup of terrible coffee growing cold between her hands, while he walked her through the paperwork that would hopefully keep Marcus behind bars. Adrian sat beside her, his presence steady and reassuring, but Elena could feel the questions radiating from him, all the things she hadn't told him, all the truths that were about to come to light. The good news, Chief Morrison was saying, is that Webb violated multiple laws tonight. The bad news is that with a good lawyer, he'll probably make bail within 48 hours. Elena's stomach clenched. So he'll be free again. Temporarily. But the restraining order is now active in Vermont, and we have documentation of his threats. Plus, his Connecticut record shows a pattern of escalating behavior. The chief's expression was grim, but determined. We take domestic violence seriously here, Ms. Williams. He won't be able to approach you or contact you without facing immediate arrest. As they finished the paperwork, Elena felt the weight of Adrian's careful silence. He'd been supportive throughout the process, holding her hand when she had to describe Marcus's past abuse, providing quiet strength when she'd broken down describing the photos Marcus had threatened to share, but she could see the shock in his eyes as the full scope of her history became clear. The drive back to Elena's apartment was quiet, filled with the kind of heavy silence that pressed against her chest like a physical weight. When Adrian pulled up outside her building, he turned off the engine but made no move to leave. Are you okay? He asked finally. Elena almost laughed at the absurdity of the question. Was she okay? She'd just faced down her worst nightmare, watched the man who'd terrorized her for years get arrested, and exposed every shameful detail of her past to the man she was falling in love with. Okay seemed like an impossibly distant concept. I don't know, she said honestly. I feel empty, like I've been holding my breath for 2 years and suddenly I can breathe again, but I don't remember how. Adrian reached over and took her hand, his thumb tracing gentle circles over her knuckles. The things you told the police tonight. Elena, why didn't you tell me how bad it was? There it was, the question she'd been dreading. Elena pulled her hand free and stared out the passenger window at her quiet street. Because you would have looked at me exactly the way you're looking at me now. How am I looking at you? Like I'm broken. Like I'm something fragile that might shatter if you breathe too hard. Elena's voice was barely above a whisper. Like you're wondering what kind of woman stays with a man who hurts her, who takes photos of her bruises, who makes her believe she deserves it. Elena, don't. She turned to face him, and Adrian saw tears streaming down her cheeks. Don't. Tell me you're not wondering. Don't tell me you're not thinking about Lily, about whether someone like me should be around your daughter. Adrian was quiet for a long moment, and in that silence Elena heard the confirmation of her worst fears. Of course he was having doubts. Of course he was reconsidering everything between them. She'd been fooling herself to think otherwise. You're right, Adrian said finally, and Elena's heart shattered. I am thinking about Lily. Elena fumbled for the door handle, desperate to escape before she completely fell apart. I understand. I'll stay away from both of you. I won't make this harder than it has to be. Elena, stop. Adrian's voice was sharp with something that might have been frustration. Will you let me finish? She froze, her hand still on the door handle. I am thinking about Lily. Adrian continued, his voice gentler now. I'm thinking about how she lit up when she met you. How she's been happier these past few weeks than she's been since her mother died. I'm thinking about the drawing she made for you, and how she asked me tonight if you were coming to breakfast tomorrow because she wants to make you pancakes. Elena turned back to him, confused by the direction of his words. I'm thinking about my daughter, Adrian said, reaching out to cup Elena's face with infinite tenderness. And how lucky she is to have someone like you in her life, someone who understands what it's like to be hurt, to be afraid, to fight for healing. Someone who will teach her that survival makes you strong, not weak. Adrian, you want to know what I'm really thinking about tonight? I'm thinking about how brave you are, how you rebuilt your entire life from nothing, how you faced down your worst nightmare to protect people you love. His thumb wiped away her tears. I'm thinking about how honored I am that you trusted me enough to let me help. Elena stared at him through her tears. You're not afraid? Of my baggage, my history, the mess I bring? Terrified, Adrian admitted with a rueful smile. But not of you. I'm terrified of losing you. I'm terrified that you'll decide I'm not worth the risk, that loving me isn't worth the complications of blending our lives together. How can you say that? You're perfect. You have everything together, everything figured out. Elena, I'm a widowed father who works 70-hour weeks because I don't know how to be alone with my grief. I let my daughter eat cereal for dinner twice last week because I forgot to grocery shop. I still sleep on my side of the bed because moving to the middle feels like betraying Sarah's memory. Adrian's laugh was self-deprecating. Trust me, I'm far from perfect. Elena felt something shift in her chest, not breaking but settling into place. We're quite a pair, aren't we? The broken and the healing, Adrian agreed. Maybe that's exactly what we both need. As they sat in the quiet darkness of the car, Elena felt the last walls around her heart finally crumble. Not from force or fear, but from the gentle persistence of genuine love. What happens now? She asked. Now you go upstairs and get some sleep. Tomorrow, if you're up for it, you come have breakfast with us. Lily's been practicing her pancake technique. Adrian's smile was soft with promise. And then we figure out the rest as we go. Together, Elena leaned across the console and kissed him, not the desperate kiss of someone afraid of losing what they'd found, but the steady kiss of someone ready to build something real. Together, she agreed. As she climbed the stairs to her apartment, Elena felt lighter than she had in years. Marcus was in jail. Her secrets were no longer secrets. And for the first time since she was a child, she had a family that chose her just as much as she chose them. But as she reached for her door key, she noticed something that made her blood run cold. The door was slightly ajar, though she was certain she'd locked it before leaving for Adrian's house. From inside her apartment came the sound of someone moving around, and Elena realized with growing horror that Marcus might not have been working alone. The nightmare, it seemed, wasn't quite over yet. Elena's hand trembled as she reached for her phone, but before she could dial 911, a familiar voice called out from inside her apartment. Elena? Honey, is that you? Relief flooded through her so quickly she nearly collapsed against the doorframe. Brooke? Her best friend appeared in the doorway, holding a cup of tea and wearing an expression of sheepish guilt. I'm sorry. I know I should have called first, but I was worried sick after Chief Morrison told me what happened. I used the spare key you gave me. Elena pushed into her apartment, her legs finally giving out as she sank onto her small couch. The adrenaline crash hit her all at once. The confrontation with Marcus, the police station, the emotional conversation with Adrian, and now this final scare. She put her head in her hands and started to cry, great heaving sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deep in her soul. Brooke was beside her instantly, strong arms pulling Elena close. Oh, honey, let it out. You've been holding this in for too long. I was so scared. Elena sobbed. I thought it was someone Marcus sent or that he'd escaped or… Shh. He's locked up tight. I just got off the phone with my cousin who works dispatch. Marcus Webb isn't going anywhere for a while. Brooke stroked Elena's hair with gentle hands. Talk to me, sugar. What happened after you left the police station? Through her tears, Elena told Brooke about the conversation with Adrian, about his acceptance and understanding, about the promise of breakfast and building something together. That man loves you, Brooke said firmly. Anyone with eyes can see it. And that little girl adores you like you hung the moon and stars. I know. I think I finally believe it. Elena wiped her eyes with the tissue Brooke handed her. But Brooke, what if I'm not strong enough? What if I can't be what they need? Listen to me, Elena Marie Williams. Brooke turned to face her directly, her dark eyes fierce with conviction. You are the strongest woman I know. You survived 2 years of hell, rebuilt your life from nothing, faced down your abuser, and protected the people you love. If that's not strong enough, I don't know what is. But what if I'm damaged? What if I can't be a good mother to Lily, a good partner to Adrian? Honey, being damaged doesn't make you broken. It makes you human. Brooke smiled gently. Besides, Lily doesn't need a perfect mother. She needs someone who will love her fiercely, protect her bravely, and show her that women can be strong. Sound like anyone you know? Elena felt the last of her resistance crumble. For so long, she'd believed Marcus's lies about her worth, her capacity for love, her right to happiness. But sitting here with Brooke, and remembering Adrian's tender words, Lily's innocent trust, even Mrs. Patterson's fierce protection, she finally understood that love wasn't something she had to earn. It was something she deserved simply by being herself. I love them, she whispered. I know you do. I love them so much it terrifies me. Good love should be a little terrifying. It means it matters. They sat in comfortable silence while drinking Brooke's perfectly brewed tea and processing the events of the evening. Finally, Brooke spoke again. So what's the plan for tomorrow? Pancakes, Elena said, and for the first time all evening she smiled without reservation. Lily wants to make me pancakes. And after pancakes? Elena thought about it seriously. I think I'm going to tell them I love them, both of them. I'm tired of being afraid of happiness. It's about damn time, Brooke said with satisfaction. The next morning dawned clear and bright, with the kind of crisp autumn air that made everything seem possible. Elena stood on Adrian's front porch at 9 a.m. sharp, holding a bag of fresh coffee beans from the cafe and wearing her best sundress, yellow with small flowers, cheerful and hopeful. Before she could knock, the door flew open to reveal Lily. In pajamas covered with rainbows, her blonde hair wild with sleep. Elena, you came, Daddy, she came. Lily launched herself into Elena's arms with the full-body enthusiasm only children possessed. Of course I came, Elena said, breathing in the sweet scent of Lily's shampoo. I promised, didn't I? Adrian appeared behind his daughter, wearing jeans and an old Red Sox t-shirt, his hair still mussed from sleep. He looked younger, more relaxed, and the smile he gave Elena was radiant with joy. Good morning, beautiful, he said, leaning down to kiss her cheek. Ready for the Lily Mitchell pancake experience? I've been practicing, Lily announced, dragging Elena toward the kitchen. Daddy taught me how to flip them without making a mess, well, mostly without making a mess. The kitchen was indeed a disaster. Flour dusting every surface, eggshells in the sink, and what appeared to be pancake batter on the ceiling. But Lily was so proud of her creations, standing on a step stool beside the stove with a spatula bigger than her hand, that Elena's heart melted completely. These are the most beautiful pancakes I've ever seen, Elena said, as Lily presented her with a plate of slightly lopsided but perfectly golden circles. They're heart-shaped, Lily pointed, out unnecessarily. Because I love you. Elena's throat closed with emotion. I love you too, sweetheart, more than you know. As they sat around the kitchen table, sharing imperfect pancakes and perfect company, Elena felt something she'd never experienced before. Complete contentment, This wasn't the desperate happiness of someone afraid it would be taken away. This was the deep, settled joy of someone who finally understood they were home. "Adrian," she said as Lily chatted about her upcoming school play. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" They stepped onto the back porch while Lily finished her breakfast, the morning sun warming Elena's face as she gathered her courage. "Last night you said we'd figure out the rest as we go," she began. "I did. I know what I want the rest to look like." Elena took his hands in hers, marveling at how perfectly they fit together. "I want family dinners and birthday parties. I want to help Lily with homework and teach her to bake cookies. I want to fall asleep next to you and wake up knowing I'm exactly where I belong." Adrian's smile was soft with wonder. "Elena, I want all of it, Adrian. The messy, complicated, beautiful reality of building a life together." She took a deep breath. "I love you. I love Lily. I love this life we're creating." Adrian cupped her face in his hands, his blue-gray eyes bright with unshed tears. "I love you too. God, Elena, I love you so much it scares me sometimes." "Good," Elena said, echoing Brooke's words from the night before. "Good love should be a little scary." As Adrian kissed her on the porch of what would soon become their home, Elena heard Lily's delighted squeal from inside the house. "Daddy! Elena! Come see! I made you a heart pancake that looks like a real heart." They broke apart laughing, and Elena knew with absolute certainty that this was her happy ending. Not perfect, not without challenges, but real and beautiful and worth every moment of pain it had taken to find it. Hand in hand, they walked back inside to their daughter and their future, ready to face whatever came next. Together. 2 years later, the morning light filtered through the lace curtains of the farmhouse kitchen, casting dancing shadows across the worn wooden table where Elena sat with her laptop, responding to emails about catering orders for her bakery. The business had grown beyond her wildest dreams. What started as Elena's sweet memories in a small storefront had evolved into Vermont's most sought-after wedding cake destination, with a waiting list that stretched months ahead. But the real magic wasn't in the success of her business. It was in the sounds that filled their home on this lazy Saturday morning. Adrian's voice drifting from the living room where he was helping 9-year-old Lily practice lines for her school play, the coffee maker gurgling its familiar rhythm, and the soft patter of rain against windows that no longer made her anxious. "Mom, do you think I should say this line louder?" Lily appeared in the kitchen doorway, script in hand, blonde hair now reaching her shoulders and eyes bright with confidence. The word "mom" still sent a thrill through Elena's heart, even though Lily had been calling her that for over a year now, ever since the adoption papers were finalized. "Let me hear it, sweetheart." Lily struck a dramatic pose. "But don't you see? True love isn't about finding someone perfect, it's about finding someone whose imperfections make your heart sing." Elena smiled, recognizing the wisdom in words written by a child who had watched her own family bloom from broken pieces. "I think it's perfect, just the way you said it." "That's what Dad said too." Lily bounced on her toes. "Oh, and Mrs. Patterson called. She wants to know if you can make her famous chocolate cake for the church bake sale, but she said to tell you, none of that fancy frosting nonsense. Just good old-fashioned buttercream." Elena laughed. At 75, Mrs. Patterson remained gloriously unchanged, still offering unsolicited advice and fierce protection to those she loved. She'd become an honorary grandmother to Lily, and had taken full credit for Elena and Adrian's romance, claiming she'd known from the start that those two were meant for each other. "Tell her I'll make 2 cakes, one with fancy frosting just to annoy her." Adrian wandered into the kitchen, drawn by the sound of their laughter. At 41, he'd aged gracefully, the stress lines around his eyes softened by contentment, and the gray at his temples now more distinguished than premature. He wrapped his arms around Elena from behind, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "What are my favorite girls plotting now?" "World domination through baked goods," Elena said, leaning back against his chest. "The usual." Lily giggled. "Mom, can I go call Sarah?" She wants to practice our lines together before Monday. Of course. Tell her she can come for dinner tomorrow if her parents don't mind. As Lily raced upstairs to her room, painted purple, now with glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling and photos of their family adventures covering one wall, Adrian and Elena settled into their morning routine. He poured coffee while she checked the day's schedule, a domestic dance they'd perfected over 2 years of marriage. "Any word from Chief Morrison about the hearing?" Adrian asked, though his tone was casual rather than worried. "Marcus's parole was denied again. Won't be eligible for another review for 18 months. Elena no longer felt the cold stab of fear when his name came up. With therapy, time, and the unwavering support of her family, Marcus had become what he should have, always been a chapter in her past, not a shadow over her future. "Good," Adrian said simply. Some things didn't require extended discussion. Elena turned to watch her husband as he prepared his weekend breakfast, scrambled eggs with cheese, whole wheat toast, orange juice. Simple pleasures that had once seemed impossible to her. "Do you ever miss it? The old life, the simplicity of it just being you and Lily?" Adrian considered the question seriously. One of the things she loved about him was that he never dismissed her occasional moments of insecurity with easy platitudes. "I miss some things," he said honestly. "I miss the lazy mornings when it was just us. I miss not having to coordinate 3 schedules for family time. I miss having the bathroom to myself." Elena laughed. But I don't miss the loneliness. I don't miss watching Lily pretend she wasn't sad about not having a mom. I don't miss feeling like I was just surviving instead of living." He turned to face her fully. "Elena, you didn't just complete our family. You showed us what family could really be." Before Elena could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from Brooke, who was now the manager of Elena's bakery and had turned out to have a natural talent for wedding cake design. "Girl, you need to see the news. Check Channel 5. Curious, Elena turned on the small kitchen TV and flipped to the local news station. What she saw made her gasp. A feature story about her bakery, complete with footage of the shop, interviews with satisfied customers, and a glowing review of her inspiring journey from trauma survivor to successful entrepreneur. "I can't believe they did a whole segment," Elena breathed, watching herself on screen. Confident, happy, unrecognizable from the frightened woman who'd arrived in Vermont 3 years ago. "I can," Adrian said, pride evident in his voice. "You've built something beautiful, Elena. Not just the business, but the life you've created for yourself. For all of us." As if summoned by the mention of family, Lily thundered back down the stairs. "Mom, Dad, Mrs. Chen called and said she saw you on TV. She wants to order a cake for her anniversary." Elena laughed, suddenly overwhelmed by the fullness of her life. 3 years ago, she'd been running from a past that threatened to destroy her. Now she was building a future that seemed to expand with possibility every day. "You know what?" she said, closing her laptop and standing up. "I think today calls for a family adventure. Who wants to drive up to the lake?" "Can we bring a picnic?" Lily asked eagerly. "Can we take the good camera?" Adrian added, always the family documentarian. "Can we stop for ice cream on the way back?" Elena finished, grinning at her family. "Yes to all of it," they said in unison, then dissolved into laughter. As they piled into Adrian's SUV an hour later, picnic basket packed, camera charged, hearts full, Elena caught sight of herself in the passenger side mirror. The woman looking back at her was confident, loved, and unafraid. She wore a simple wedding ring that caught the sunlight, and in her eyes was the unmistakable glow of someone who had not just survived, but thrived. The drive to the lake took them past Maple Corner Cafe, where a new young woman named Jessica now worked alongside the longtime staff. Elena waved to her through the window, remembering her own first days in Vermont. Scared, alone, convinced she didn't deserve kindness. Now she knew better. Everyone deserved kindness. Everyone deserved love. Everyone deserved the chance to write a new chapter when the old one wasn't working anymore. "What are you thinking about?" Adrian asked, noticing her reflective mood. Second chances, Elena said, reaching over to squeeze his hand. And how grateful I am that storms sometimes lead us exactly where we need to be. In the back seat, Lily was chattering about the ducks they'd feed at the lake, the hiking trail she wanted to try, the perfect spot for their picnic. Her voice was the soundtrack to Elena's happiness, pure, joyful, and full of plans for the future. As they drove deeper into the Vermont countryside, surrounded by autumn's spectacular display and filled with the easy contentment of a family at peace, Elena smiled and settled back in her seat. This was her happily ever after. Not perfect, but real, earned through courage and built on love. And it was just the beginning. The end. Would you have the courage to start your life over from scratch for love? And if it were up to you, would you have made the same choice as Elena did in facing Marcus alone? What did you learn from this story about second chances and the power to choose your own family? Your participation in the channel is very important. Please leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below, letting us know what you thought. Your feedback and support mean a lot to us. Stay tuned for more exciting stories.